Hello, and welcome back to Running the Gauntlet. I am your host, Promec. With me is, of course, Asset Step.
Hello, hello.
This week we don't have a guest. I invited a couple people, but frankly, I invited them a bit last minute. I was just very busy this week. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get a guest, but we have a couple of people lined up in the next coming weeks that should be interesting. So that'll be pretty fun. Um, so let's just go straight into the games because you know me, you know Asset Step. We could just jump straight into the game. So this is GCS Season 3, Week 4. And the first set of games are going to, or sorry, before the games, of course, it's the Week 3 standings. This has pretty much been the standings all the way through, if I'm not mistaken. It's B2F, WWW. Now, TCOJ has climbed last week. Uh, and then Zoom fourth, then GG, EBO, VVV, and RIDM. Now, we go for the first game, which was VVV versus GG. Asset Step, would you like to say anything before we go into game one?
Um, no, I feel like we made predictions last week, I believe. And I feel like the two games that we're kind of iffy about was this game right here and EBO versus um TCOJ. And I think I was confident in winning the series, and I think you believed in VVV if I remember correctly.
I thought it was 50-50. I thought either team could win, but I thought it would be very funny if VVV won, so I put my money on VVV. Plus, it should be noted, as we said last week, VVV did play the top three seeds like back to back to back, right? So the strength of this team is a little sort of hard to gauge given their opponents. But yeah, with
To
that,
be fair,
yeah, go
we
ahead.
also played the top seeds back to
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
back.
yeah. But then you lost to another team. No, who did you lose to? Oh, did you play? Interesting. Okay. Anyway, let's go to game one. So game one was a pretty good game from both teams. It seemed like VV was kind of being annoying early, but the way you guys were stacking dragons and the fact that you had Zahen kind of felt like sort of GG was inevitable. How did you feel in the actual game?
Um, I just feel like there was a couple of dumb mistakes that we made. So like if you look at the gold graph, like I felt like we were winning pretty much the whole time. There was just a couple of bad um team fights that we took. Wait, hold on. I'm looking at the teams right now. Hold on 1 second. Okay. Uh, Sorry, it's super late for me right over here. I was looking at the bands. I was like, "What the? We did not play Jinx, Smolder,
Oh
Syndra."
yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at the wrong team comps. No, we had a really good dragon control and air control. There were just a couple like small mistakes that were made, but I feel like in the mid game uh like once we actually started taking the fights that we wanted, it was pretty much a guaranteed victory. Um,
Yeah.
I think our comp was much better too, compared to theirs. And it just felt like inevitable win.
Yeah, no, I
Just
agree.
yeah.
I thought your team comp was better, and I thought that 6 foot on Zahan, which I think is OP. Like I think Zahan is OP this patch, and I think anyone who plays Zahan this patch is going to get free LP. Like that's just it seems like that's where he's at. The Nyla was kind of that question mark for me. I thought one of the Barons, if I'm not mistaken, kind of looked a little iffy, and so I thought that that would have been kind of a bad opportunity. I think that was this game. But I think you guys did a good job of kind of closing it out, and like you said, I felt like you guys were inevitable this game. However, when we go to game two, or this is the scoreboard, if anyone wants to look at the scoreboard in detail. Uh, Obviously 6 foot popped off here, and your mid laner did pretty good. Your mid laner was a sub this week, right?
Yeah, so we did have Soap, our mid laner, which is I think is a support main, I think,
Yeah,
and a mid secondary.
did a very good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
Um,
look at that Lulu score though. Whoo.
yeah,
No,
yeah, no, pretty good, pretty good.
I just also remember in like the late game where like Zahan 6 foot did do really well, and he like it looked like he was like 1v5ing them, but like I'm like working my ass off on flash ulting, healing, shielding or whatever. It looks like a it looks like a 1v5, but I'm just like putting out some good utility in there.
No, for sure, because he was definitely limit testing. If you look at the towards the last probably like 10 minutes of that game, it's just him running in 1v5 and somehow
Yeah.
surviving. All right, so we go to game two. This game was a little bit different, and it felt like the opposite, sort of. You guys were doing well early, but the enemy team having that smolder Vagar, what I was looking for was for you guys to have a much like bigger lead early on, and when that really wasn't materializing, I got pretty confident. I would say that VVV would just be too problematic, particularly because the Master Yi was kind of not doing particularly well, and so how did you feel
Yeah,
about
this
it?
was I don't know, like I think overall our team comp wasn't the greatest this game. In terms of our draft, they definitely had a much better late game comp, and we got the advantage early on. Like mid was super ahead, jungle was super ahead. We had advantage in bot lane as well. Our top was pretty much even, but we had the matchup advantage, and I think it just ended up happening where it's like we weren't able to secure the lead fast enough, essentially. And there was a couple of miscommunications in like the mid game where it's like that gold graph should have been higher, but we just didn't close off the game fast enough. Essentially, we kind of like stalemated bot and top where we could have just played a little bit more aggressively and took the win. Unfortunately, we didn't, and their comp is just like super late game scaling. You have Smolder, you have Vygar, right? You have Trundle, which is great with his pillar. You have Doctor Mundo, and like if you look at our team comp, like how the heck are we supposed to engage on them?
Yeah, no,
It's like
that's exactly what the problem is because
yeah,
essentially for the Mundo, right? Really, the Yi is the one threat to the Mundo, and the Yi was just kind of not able to ever get to that point. The Malzahar into the Smolder is kind of just a Smolder farm fest, apparently. I don't know. I've played that matchup before, and it felt very, very like I could just do whatever I wanted as Malzahar, but apparently I'm wrong. Apparently it's supposed to play the other way. But yeah, I agree. It felt like you guys should have kind of had a bigger lead early and kind of used that to sort of levy it into towers and sort of into the win. But unfortunately, you weren't able to do it. And by the time the 20-minute mark came in, Smolder was, I think, fully stacked by about 22 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And then Vagar was just Vagar. And so it became
yeah,
very, very difficult to end the game there. But when we
yeah.
go here to.
We
Yeah,
just
go
need to
ahead.
be we just need to be more aggressive in game two, and we weren't aggressive enough. And VV did a great job of scaling to late game and just running us over.
Yep, and at this point, I was feeling good. I thought VVV was gonna come out and end this Shabak, but unfortunately, not how it played out. I think this game you guys just stopped them. It felt like VVV was not in this game at any point. It just felt like you guys had their number and weren't going to let them sort of come back.
Yeah, no, that's what happens when you take Icarus's Vel'Koz. You disrespect, don't ban the Vel'Koz. You first pick Vel'Koz, and we were like, we're not having any of that shit. We're gonna play super aggro and just absolutely wreck them, and we did that.
Yeah.
Um, I remember specifically Icarus was like, "Hey, I'm going Pike. They took my Vel'Koz. I'm gonna go Pike because we thought the Vel'Koz is gonna go bot lane." Uh,
Okay. Okay.
and I was like, "Okay, great. Yeah, you play Vel'Koz as a main. You know the counters. Like, um, Pike is great into it. I do play a little bit of ADC. Maybe not enough, but I feel mechanically I'm really good at bot lane as well. And we were just able to just absolutely stomp bot lane. Um,
Oh yeah, because you guys swapped this around, right? I remember now.
yep, yep. We had Icarus go support. I went bot. Essentially, they went Ezreal, which also is like Ezreal needs to get the early advantage. If Ezreal doesn't, then like not the greatest of a champion. And honestly, like 10 minutes in the game, I feel like I was able to 1v2 their bot lane.
Yep.
Um,
No, especially someone like Misfortune. Essentially, so a champion like Ezreal is good because they can kind of poke you in lane, but then Misfortune has double the range by being able to ricochet her Q, and so it becomes a situation where if Misfortune gets even a little bit ahead, the leaf not necessarily the lethality, but the damage that she just naturally generates early is just too much for an Ezreal in particular to handle. Now the Braum should have mitigated some of that, but I just feel the synergy between Braum and Ezreal isn't necessarily there either. in terms of like
Yeah.
the champion
And
playstyles.
it did seem like they picked the Braum just to counter the MF, and maybe he wasn't just comfortable on that champion, so he didn't like play as well as he needed to be. But our mid went pretty even. Our jungle absolutely dominated, especially because Pyke was able to roam and help them out.
Yeah, but it's interesting that they didn't go for like a Lucian if they were picking the Braum. Pick something kind of
I
more
agree.
aggressive because essentially if Pyke goes in right and you have a Lucian Braum, then the Pyke is always dead, right? Like because it's not like Misfortune is going to be able to kill the Lucian through the Braum shield, and then like the Pyke is just stunned when he goes in, so it becomes a little tricky. But I
I
don't I
agree,
don't
and
do
I
their
think
drafting, so
yeah, like Lucian would have been much better. I feel like just MF is just a better laner than Ezreal. Um, in
yep,
Yeah, I feel like in general, unless you're like super skilled as Ezreal, right? Like you have
yeah.
to like lane
Unless
every
you're
single
like
Q.
yeah,
Yeah, or you have to like stack your like Conqueror or like Lethal Temper or whatever. But in this case, just it felt like a free win bot.
okay. All right, so let's move on to game number. So this is the scoreboard, and then let's move on to the next series. The next series is WWW versus Zoom. If I'm not mistaken, this is actually the game where we put the bet on because I thought that Zoom had a better chance of being WWW than EBO did of TCOJ. And unfortunately, as we're going to find out, that bet didn't necessarily work out. We go to game one, WWW versus Zoom. I thought Zoom did a great job in this game. I thought they were in there, and essentially the game was pretty much even, if not a little bit Zoom sided in the early game, because essentially you have the Victor, you have like the Victor's doing very well early. You have the Yorick that, while not necessarily being the Renekton 1-to-1, it was exerting more pressure than the Renekton was early. The Zahan, I thought, again, is OP, and I thought that would go. Now, in the mid lane, I expected a little more from the Malzahar. That was just. Smolder was unfortunately able to just kind of do whatever Smolder wanted. Like, Haumea did a great job in that lane, and then effectively became a situation where the same as Smolder before, and I actually think this was even quicker. I think by the 20-minute mark, Haumea had already gotten all the stacks, and like that's kind of what you see where the damage chart kind of switched, and so it became a situation where not only did Haumea get off, but now you also have like the Mel bot lane because Haumea is like playing the Smolder mid, and the Mel's able to kind of deal with Nami ult and any other sort of tools that Zoom had. So I thought it was a great job from the side of weak side warders to kind of survive the storm early and then just close out the game late.
Yeah, and I didn't watch this game specifically, but I wonder like maybe the Malzahar misplayed and like misused the W because like I remember in my matchup versus Smolder that I played, I just did not use W in lane. Unless like the Smolder couldn't like attack it and stack it up. But yeah, those if the Smolder could get the minion kills, it just you could get those 20 you could get full stacks so fast.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened. It's not necessarily that he was spamming W, but he definitely did it a little early and probably didn't make the read to not use the ability until later. I think that's kind of how the lane played out there. Then moving on to game number two, this one was completely different. This was a complete stump from weak side warders. Like Zoom was never even remotely in the game. It should be noted, Boom is not playing in this series. They had a sub for AD carry, and obviously, Boom is really where they have a lot of their point allocation. So losing that kind of member is always tough. So this game is probably how weak side warriors should play game one, but they decided to play a little more conservatively by having that scaling mid laner. This game it was the complete opposite. It was just like, hey, we're just going to win the game, and it was really, if I'm not mistaken, the Riddy game. This game, like Riddy was going crazy. Like he was everywhere. Like early game, I think he got like the first like 6 kills or something like that. It was not even like there was never an opportunity in this game for Zoom to do anything if Riddy wasn't involved. It was a
Yeah, I mean 1207 Belveth. It's pretty scary over there, you know.
yeah.
Um, you know what's interesting though? If I was Zoom, I would just put Yi Yod mid lane from his main. He's a excellent mid laner. His great mechanics. He plays champions that are really good. He plays Anivia, if I remember correctly. He plays
Yeah.
Victor. He plays, oh gosh, maybe like Oriana, I think, if I remember correctly. Just really good like A tier controlled and S tier controlled mages. And if you're gonna play someone like Seraphine, like just play him bot lane, right? Just like look to just go even or like just wave clear and then just try to get carried through your tier one players.
Yeah, no, that's a good read. It's probably what they should have done. Yu Yo Ye played. I think he's played in the GCS before, but he's definitely, if not here, he's played in the Ping 150 tournament, and he's always been fairly solid. He has his moments where he kind of gets a little too big for his bridges and overplays like a lead, but for the most part, he's a very solid sort of control mage type player. Not necessarily control mage, but more a control style uh, mid player. And so I agree. I think that's something that Zoom could have tried to explore. But we'll see. I'm not sure why Boom wasn't here. I assume he'll be here this coming weekend, and so that should balance the team out. And hopefully, it gives Zoom the opportunity to kind of stay around because they since the first week they've kind of been slowly kind of climbing down. So we'll see. Uh, then we move on to B2F to our IDM. If you didn't watch the series, you didn't miss much. This series was just B2F doing whatever they wanted. This game one, that Shinzao is actually not Leaf, it's Luton. Luton subbed in here.
Oh.
He did okay, but essentially this game was one of the Tom Tua specials, and unfortunately, yeah, B2F with having the Zahan essentially into the Tom Kench, like that's a pretty like strong Zahan matchup, just because he's you can win it with Tom Kench, and I've won it many times, but it's definitely something where you have to play it very well on the Tom Kench side, and the Zahen needs to run teleport instead of ignite. And I don't think into this matchup he ran Ghost, so that might have helped a little bit from the side of Tom Kench, but just not much you can do in that matchup when the Zahen just his Q gives him more range. It's pretty dumb.
I'm starting to realize I feel like I'm an Ezreal hater. I like the champion, but every single time I'm like, damn, Ezreal has to win early, and if they don't, like, what the heck are you gonna do mid game to late game?
No, that's a good read on Ezreal.
It's like you're brave to pick that into a loon, and is it Bergamy, right?
Yeah, Laramie.
Laramie, sorry, Laramie.
Bergamot, I
Playing
think is her in game.
yes, Laramie playing one of her main supports. Uh,
Yeah. And
so yeah, brave choice. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah, and the combination of the Ezreal, like the combination of Ezreal, or sorry, the combination of Caitlyn Melio into an Ezreal lane sounds like torture because essentially Caitlyn's always gonna outrange you. That was always going to be the case, but now she has Melio and she's gonna extra outrange you, and so it feels really sort of tough to play that kind of game out. So that's tough, and essentially they picked the Ezreal into the Caitlyn, like they picked into this matchup. So I don't know what he believed he was able to do, but unfortunately he was not able to do it this game.
And was Tom Tua playing the Tom Kench top, or was he playing mid this game?
I think he was playing the Victor, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he was playing the Victor. Which is
that makes sense.
Pretty interesting. I would have expected him to play the. I see what you're saying. You saw the scoreboard. You're like, hey, the Victor.
Yeah. I was like, damn, this Nico absolutely fucking wrecked.
Yeah, no. If I'm not mistaken, Tom Tua was mid. And I think Sprague was the one who took the Tom Ken's top, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so now we move on to game two, and game two is a little bit better, but not.
Yeah, I see some red on the gold graph.
Yeah, no, I think if I'm not mistaken, in this game, I think Sprague was doing well into the Kled, just because of the matchup. I think he was just doing okay in that lane. And I think they got like an early kill by the Mundo or something like that. But after that, I don't think they produced much, and I think they both kind of just went back to. They kind of lost their powers, like the Monstars, and they just Loon just ran them over. It was not a great game. It was
I
really like.
thought I thought Kled was supposed to have the upper hand in that matchup. Am I wrong about that?
It depends how you play it because Kled has the ability to kind of, because of his mount mechanic, he can kind of survive a lot of the big damage threats that Ilaoi can produce. But on the other side, right, if he unmounts and Ilaoi has her E, then he's always going to die, right? Because Ilaoi kind of doubles her damage when she lands E on you, and if at that point you don't have the Scarl buffer, then you're kind of screwed. So that's kind of my read on it. But I think Kled can definitely win that matchup, but I don't think it's as easy. And I think Spread, if I'm not mistaken, does play Ilaoi. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's one of his champions.
Okay, gotcha. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, but yeah, these are the scoreboards. Like I said, I think noble effort from RIDM, but unfortunately not able to do a ton after the initial sort of. I wouldn't even say they had an initial lead, but after doing a little bit well early, they just weren't able to keep it together. All right, and now we go to TCOJ versus EBO. Now this was a game that I thought could go either way, and then I really thought about it. I'm like, I think just Gumby's gonna do Gumby things, but I thought Hangman had a good opportunity to kind of maybe be a neutralizer for Gumby, and if that was the case, and I thought EBO had a shot, unfortunately, as we'll see, not the case. I think TCOJ played a very clean game early. Again, they picked the Zahen. Zahen's broken this patch. I think up to now we've seen him, twice, and he's won both times. And this is the third win. So they picked Zahen, and of course that mid lane jungle is really the strength of TCOJ. So them just being able to be on two strong champions that essentially play make together, because Ari's always going to be able to make plays with their jungler, and a jungler like Zahen will benefit a lot from it. I think that makes it very difficult to really play the game if you're on EBO side, and unfortunately, that's just kind of how the game played out.
Yeah, I'm wondering what happened in that little dip towards the between 12 and 14 mark.
If
Did they
I'm
like take a bad team fight or
if I'm not mistaken, Twitch gets a good flank, and they kind of, because if you look on the side of on EBO, right, they run Amumu Shen, and if I'm not mistaken, what happens is they try to kill Amumu or something, and then Shen is able to land a taunt, which leads into like a double kill, I think, from Twitch, and it kind of just kills that lead temporarily, but it wasn't really a ton. Like, if you saw it, you would know that it wasn't going to amount to a ton, because it was just TCOJ played it very, very poorly, and EBO got very, very lucky. And so after that fight, you actually probably felt more confident in TCOJ finishing off the game than you did in EBO coming back from it. And then we go to game 2, or this is the scoreboard, right?
for game 1? Yeah.
Yeah, for game 1. And we saw in here Xenix was trying his best, but Sushi Man was just very, very good with the Ilaoi. It became very, very difficult for Xenix to kind of stay in lane, which is very unfortunate. Particularly if you're playing a Shen, you want to be able to have a little bit of that pressure to push, and when you play on Ilaoi, it's just such a boring, it's such an unfair lane that unfortunately wasn't able to materialize into much. And then we move on to the second game, and this one was a lot closer, but it just, at one point, it wasn't. It looks really bad when you look at the scoreboard, but I would say about 16 minutes in that EBO still had like a pretty good opportunity to win it. It's just, it felt like TCOJ just had too many answers for the Katarina, and so the Katarina was kind of a non-factor, and then like Ali just couldn't keep herself safe enough for it to convert to anything.
I was gonna say, like, looking at the scoreboard, it feels like Ali kind of popped off early game, and like that maybe if I didn't know anything else, like maybe that she's the reason why they were able to be kind of close inside of this game, right? You have with Lucian Morgana, which is
Yep.
strong into Seraphine Ash. But then I look at the Kindred, Elias,
Yeah,
Elias, uh, final score 18-2 to 3. It's like holy crap.
yeah,
What the hell is Lucian gonna do into that? Like,
yeah. No, Ilias popped off both of the games, but this game in particular was pretty egregious. It
yeah,
just Taco just wasn't able to play this game pretty much at all. Just unfortunate when you run into these kinds of like discrepancies. Because I think Taco might be like bronze, maybe silver, and he's playing a Masters player like in the jungle. It becomes very difficult to really do much when that's kind of the discrepancy in the jungle specifically. Because bro, this season in particular, if a jungle invades, like, bro, tell your jungle to just leave. Like, there is no benefit for you defending the jungle anymore. Because if I go defend the jungle, and, like, I might kill the guy, and then I come back to lane, and I'm down a level. And it's like, bro, like, why did I help you? I might as well just have stayed in lane and kept my experience lead. But it becomes very
and then
difficult to play. Yeah.
do you remember if Kindred was kind of camping topside because Xenox tier 1 player, Sushiman tier 2 player, and there's looks like there's a huge difference top lane.
I don't remember specifically because I don't think this is a game. This is a game I watched pretty early, so I just can't remember. I watched this game I think the day of, and so it's been a while. But I don't remember. I really don't remember if it was a camp top lane. It looks like it. Uh, it has to have been actually because Oliver only has 3 kills and top lane died 8 times. Uh, but yeah, the bot lane. I remember specifically that Ali was doing very well in the bot lane. That matchup, which I would have expected Seraphine Ash to kind of do well in, they just weren't able to really position themselves in lane particularly well. But at the end of the day, I think TCOJ has too many answers, and EBO just didn't have enough questions. And so at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the story of what happened this game.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And that takes us to week 4 standings. The week 4 standings are pretty interesting. We have B2F and WWW at the very top. They're the only teams that have been undefeated. Um, I actually think WWW and B2F play at the end of the season. That's the team that plays B2F at the end of the season. So they're undefeated as of now. TCOJ that started in the bottom 4 is now 3 and pretty comfortably 3. Your team GG snuck into 4th place, just ahead of Zoom. Zoom, I don't know how to feel about Zoom because it feels like Zoom should be like better than what they are now. But at the same time, I think Zoom has lost to like the best teams. Like I don't think they've lost necessarily to the under. Like they beat RIDM, they beat EBO, and then they lost to B2F and Weakside Warriors. So it's a question there as to whether or not they belong in that top 4 group. So it'll be interesting to see how you both of your guys kind of play out the rest of the season. And then we have EBO comfortably and not comfortably, but essentially EBO, VV, and RIDM. Whoever's gonna get into playoffs is just going to be lucky. Like at the end of the day, like these teams are so close that if RIDM 2-0s like next week, they could very easily get back into 6. Right, so it'll be interesting to see which of the 3 teams kind of make it in.
Yeah, I think the most interesting matchups are going to be B2F versus WWW.
Mm-hmm.
I think VVV versus EBO is going to be super interesting. Um, and then I think GG versus either TCOJ or Zoom is going to be interesting. Actually, those 3 teams, the TCOJ, GG, and Zoom, I feel like they're close together
Yep.
in terms of skill level. I feel like I'm going to glaze my team a little bit. When we played WWW, I feel like we should have won that series. That game 3, essentially, like we were winning and then we just lost due to like a bad team fight. So, um, and then versus B2F, obviously, that was a really shitty series, like where we kind of like
There's a
had to
lot of
forfeit in
incidents
as a
that
sub and all that stuff
yeah.
or whatever. But I would love to play against B2F again. Essentially, have like a real best of 3.
Oh, don't you worry,
I'm
buddy.
not saying we would have win, but like I think we could have probably put up the best showing versus them. So I feel like Team GG stocks are on the rise. I would invest.
Okay. You heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. GG's on the rise. Let's see what the matchups are coming into this next week. Now, obviously, in game one, I think we will both agree that B2F is going to 2-0 it. I don't think we
Just
need to discuss this matchup at all.
like, would it be weird if we just asked them to just ARAM just to make it things interesting?
No, 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 no. I put
Is that awful for me to say? Like, come on, who's gonna win this matchup? Like,
I think EBO has like a surprise factor. I don't think it's gonna matter to B2F, but this is one of those um, this is one of those games for B2F in particular that could be a trap game, because essentially they're undefeated up to this point, but a loon might decide I want to play something fun, and then all of a sudden they fuck around and lose a game here. I could see that happening. Right? I'm not predicting it, but it wouldn't surprise me if this ended up being a 2-1 on B2F just because B2F decides to try to have some fun and play some silly stuff. Although, if I'm not mistaken, Laramie played the Cho'Gath, as she said, so she was satisfied with that. So maybe not too much cooking in this EBO matchup. The next one is GG versus TCOJ. This one I think is the most interesting match of the weekend. Probably Zoom MVV is the other one that's kind of questionable because it really is going to determine who that third place is pretty comfortably, because TCOJ is significantly about Zoom. But if you guys beat TCOJ, you guys leapfrog TCOJ because if you 2-0 them, you would tie in points, but you'd have the tiebreaker because you beat them. And so it'll be interesting to see how that matchup plays out. I think TCOJ is going to win. I think it'll probably be a 2-1. What about you? What are you predicting for that series?
yeah. So I mean, I feel like on paper, I think TCOJ does look very scary. I'm gonna use the WWW matchup as a way to kind of see which team did better, and I feel like we were closer to the victory versus WWW than TCOJ was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as you said, the Gumby factor. I don't know. He's been playing really safe recently, from what I've seen. So he hasn't been going for any kind of crazy plays. Uh, I think I want to say that we're gonna win 2-1,
Mm.
but it really depends. I feel like my team is also tends to be very volatile in our decision making. So
Will you?
yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Can we
Will your
neutralize
mid laner be
Gumby?
playing?
Can our top laners uh, who will come up ahead? Because I've been really impressed with Sushi actually, watching him play.
Yeah, so he's been doing very well.
Um, so we'll see how it goes. We might change up roles a little bit here in this match. A little bit of a preview, but we'll see.
All right. Then it's RIDM versus WWW. I assume this is like the EBO B2F. We would both predict 2-0 for WWW.
I think the interesting question is which is more of a stomp,
Mm.
B2F versus EBO or WW versus RIDM? What do you think?
That's an
Who's gonna
interesting
win
question.
harder?
That's an interesting question. I think RIDM. It has to be WWW into RIDM just because Tom Tua is on that team. Like, I love Tom Tua, but he's putting up a performance this season. Because EBO, they kind of stick around a little early and then they die very stupidly. Like they'll die backing because they're not looking, and someone will just walk up to them and auto them, and then they're dead. But I think RIDM is definitely going to feed harder than EBO. I think EBO has a chance, whereas RIDM, I don't even think really could miss all the games, and I still think RIDM isn't like anywhere near being competitive into weak side orders.
What if Sir Raziel picks up Zahan Jungle?
If he picks Zahan, I think if he picks Zahan and Riddy isn't there, then okay, they win. But if Riddy's there, I'm not super worried about the Zahan. The other thing is, Hamea has been pretty passive these last 2 weeks. It doesn't feel like Hamea particularly popped off. He did well in a couple of the games. He did well in all the games, but he didn't like do super well or do anything crazy. And this is a series that if they send like Tom Kench, if they send Tom Tua mid, like Hamea is going to go out of his way to kill Tom Tua over and over again. Like Hamea needs that blood. Like he has that bloodthirst in him, right? He's been very passive these last 2 weeks. I think it's one of those games where if you give him the bait, like he will roll with it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see a Vladimir like game one just put it out there. And then we have Zoom versus VVV. This is another game that's very, very interesting. I'm actually pretty. This would be a good. Like, if VVV is going to turn around their season, this is where they do it. Because essentially, Zoom is on the way down. VVV has lost to the best teams. And, like, there's an opportunity. And then you guys, right? And so there's an opportunity here for VVV to beat Zoom, and then they just leapfrog over their competition. Like they're only 1 point below EBO, and if they were to 2-0 Zoom, they would literally tie Zoom and kind of push them down. So this is like a big chance for VVV. Like they're not out of the playoffs yet, which is like incredible to say, even though they haven't won a series, because they've won 2 games at least. So they're there. There's an opportunity there to grow. And so I'm predicting VVV wins, maybe 2-1. I'm hoping VVV wins. But yeah, I have no stake in this in this matchup. What about you?
Well, Zoom hasn't had a full roster for a long time. If it's main roster versus main roster, I definitely think Zoom has the advantage. Now, that being said, maybe because they haven't played with each other for quite some time, or maybe there's a little bit, maybe there could be a communication issue where VVV could take it. It's not like VVV is awful. They're just not they're just like, what's the right word to use? Aggressively mediocre.
That's crazy.
I don't know if that's it's just like they're okay. They're not amazing at anything. They're not necessarily bad at anything. But I feel like Zoom's like they're also kind of like they're not amazing at anything, except their bot lane would be the one that's like a really strong, like, hey, they definitely win through bot. The other lanes like mid, top, they're good, but they're not like I'm gonna carry potential. Same thing with their jungle.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment.
So like I feel like they're both the same kind of game plan, except Zoom has the advantage to bot lane if they have the master.
Okay. But brass tacks, who's winning?
Yeah. Brass tacks, who's winning? Zoom is gonna win, I think. Yeah. Zoom's gonna win. I think the only way that VV would win is that they carry through mid.
I will try.
I think that's their only chance. If they were to win, I would say put your best player through mid and just play through mid.
It'll be interesting to see what game plan Zoom comes into, or VV comes into this game. With that said, that is our last segment today. We're not doing the power rankings this week. I decided that I think the power rankings at this point are okay. It'd be more interesting to do them next week when we have another guest coming in. But yeah, that's DCS Season 3 Week 4. This is a 4. Ignore this 3. Anything that you would like to tell the chat before we go?
Yeah, I feel like the way that B2F and WWW should settle their game early is who could create the bigger gold advantage in this week's games.
That'll be interesting. So you heard it here first. B2F and WWW, we are challenging both of you to win harder, and so whichever one wins, I know what I'll do. Okay, whichever one of the two teams has the highest gold lead in aggregate between all games played, unless they time out between the best 2 games. All right, if one of you loses one of the games, you lose automatically. All right, it should be 2-0 stomps on both of them. But whoever has the highest aggregate, we will have a little sort of highlight clip of the plays in next week's run of the Gauntlet.
Yeah, you should do a per minute played, baby, because like what if one game goes longer than the other, right? So like highest gold difference divided by game time.
Maybe. Yeah.
Because then, like, what if you could just drag it? You know, like, unless they want to drag it out on purpose. I don't know. I don't know how meta we want to get.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, highest goal per minute between most games. All right, whoever has the
So
highest
when
one will see your highlights next week.
all right, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, catch you guys later. Thank you for joining us in GCS Season 3, Week 4. This is the middle of the tournament. From here on out, we have 3 weeks more of gameplay, and these are the most important 3 weeks that will determine playoff seeding, and essentially it'll have league leaders. I plan to, at some point, have a little evaluation of each player by position and kind of have a rankings for that. So that'll be probably week 6 going into like the final week. And so, anyway, thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day, and catch you guys later.